Today I'm going to give you the top 10 most dangerous things that empaths do, at least in my opinion and from my experience. Here we go.
This is your life, no one else has gotta live it. This is your fight that only you can win.
Hello everyone and welcome to Freedom Friday, where you learn how to free yourself and live your dreams. I'm Darienne, your certified spiritual rock star. And if you are new here and you want to get videos just like this every single week, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that bell to get notifications. I almost couldn't get that out. Also, I am giving away a free guided meditation to raise your vibrations when you sign up for my weekly Empire updates. You can do that down in the link below or right here in this little info box. All right, let's get on with the video. So I want to preface this with this, especially for those of you who have never seen me before. I am not one to be like, danger, danger, and try to trigger the ego or anything like that. This is definitely not to create fear. It's certainly not to create shame for any empaths. My intention here is to create awareness. There is a lot out there, a lot of information, a lot of misguided information, and even what I would consider to be false information out there about empaths. And there really is a misconception about what it means to be an empath, and I think that people just assume that a lot of the traits that I'm going to list here today just come with being an empath, and they really don't. They actually come with being what some might call an impaired empath, and I would just call that basically a dysfunctional empath or an unhealthy empath, or just an empath who hasn't really learned how to live a more healthy life and have healthier relationships and really be able to love themselves. This is a really beautiful opportunity for you to be aware of yourself. How am I acting? Some of the stuff that I'm going to mention here is the ego side of the empath or the shadow side of the empath. It's just an opportunity for you to look at yourself, because when you have an awareness of this, it gives you the ability to break free from it and to really use your empath abilities for the good that you came here to use them for. So I also want to mention, for those of you that are probably like, who the hell's this lady? So I call myself nowadays the leader of the Rockin Empath revolution. A few years ago, I put up a video called 10 Signs You're an Empath. I will link that right here in case you've never seen it or you have no clue what an empath is and you're just intrigued so far. When I did that video, it gained so much momentum. To this day, it now has almost about 130,000 views on it. Since then, I did start the Rockin Empath revolution because I realized that there were millions of people out there, actually 20% of the population at least, that are out there suffering with the same things that I was suffering through. Now, I've since opened, in the few years since that video has been out, a Facebook group called #RockinEmpath. I've done a course called How to Rock It as an Empath. I have worked with and heard from thousands, literally thousands of empaths over the last 4 years. And so this isn't me just talking out of my ass because I've read a bunch of blogs online or I read one book, one psychology book based on this subject. No, I have lived it for myself. I have lived all 10 of the things that I'm about to list, and I have seen literally thousands and thousands of empaths go through the exact same things. So this is the opportunity for you to be aware of yourself so that you can grow. And I want you to know that these are dysfunctions of the empath or the shadow side of the empath. This is not a healthy version of an empath, and there are healthier versions. So sometimes we got to know where we are to be able to get where we're going. So I'm just going to read my notes for reference. And these are in no particular order. Let me specify what I mean by dangerous. again, that could be like a clickbait kind of triggering word, and I don't mean to do that, but I truly do mean that it is dangerous, because if you are acting in this way, you are manifesting more of this. You are creating more of it in your life, and you're never going to break free from it if you continue to do it. What we don't realize as empaths is how important it is to stay positive, because we're so sensitive. And so that is why, yes, I think that dangerous mistakes is a pretty appropriate term. And just hear me out until the end of this video, and I absolutely would love to hear your thoughts on this. Again, this is not a time to shame yourself. This is a time to love these parts of yourself that just are unnurtured or under-nurtured, and that is all, okay? So number one mistake that empaths make is thinking that we know better than God knows, or than someone else knows for themselves. So why is this such a mistake? One, we walk around kind of, sometimes we can tend, because we can see through people's outside emotions that they may be showing or lack thereof, we then take on this assumption that we know what's best for everybody based on what we are reading intuitively. Now, I'm not here to say that your intuition is wrong. What I'm here to say is that your intuition doesn't have the full picture, and it is not your job to know what's best for others. Now, this gets into another one of my mistake lists, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but we really need to just assume that we don't know. Just allow people to take what we have to give them, and don't just go walking around like we know what's best for everybody, because I promise you, we don't. And I've learned that just from doing so much energy healing and so much personal one-on-one coaching with people. Frankly, that's what I've really learned, is that it's not my job to know what's best for you. I can give you my guidance, I can have loving open arms, but ultimately, if I come in thinking I got this God complex, like I know the answers to everybody's problems, I'm not gonna help anybody. So if you've done that, just check yourself. Number two. This one, I can't even. So I gotta call out some of my Rockin' empaths too, because you guys in our group do this too. I can't tell you how many mother flipping empaths on the internet do this. We confuse sacrificing with serving. There is a huge misconception in the empath world and highly sensitive person world that we are put on this earth, and I used to think this too, so no shame in the game, but we think that we've been put on this earth to absorb all the pain of everybody else so that we can help heal the world. Let me tell you why this is so dangerous. You are literally sacrificing your own well-being to be a temporary crutch for someone else. The only way that you can truly help heal the world is by standing in your light, and you cannot stand in your light while at the same time sacrificing your well-being. So please be aware of yourself. If you think that it is your job to be this pawn of the Lord, to just vacuum up all the pain that's on the planet because people can't handle it for themselves, stop it. You are loved so much more than that, and God would not make you an energy ragdoll. That is self-made, my darling. And trust me, I know that it feels like that because I have felt like that very, very often, that a lot of my friends, loved ones, acquaintances, I noticed that they couldn't handle pain on their own, and so I tended to release it for them. And I thought that I was, this noble woman to do this. But when you are lowering your vibrations to do this, you are lowering the vibrations of the planet while you are lowering your vibrations. That is why that is a dangerous mistake. Please be careful and stop doing that, okay? Number 3, these all sort of tumble into each other. So number 3 is codependency. Us empaths, of course, are so prone to be in codependent relationships. Now, here's where I want you to watch yourself. We get into relationships with narcissists, and then because they are so crude by society's standards, and that's not my own words. Those are just, that's like everybody sort of unanimously has this agreement that narcissists are crude by, societal standards. Their behavior. Because of that fuels our holier than thou complex. Like, I am this perfect empath. I'm just a genuine good person on this planet. And so that's how we get stuck in a dynamic with a narcissist, or for those of you that don't know what a narcissist is, basically somebody that abuses and manipulates us. We'll just put it, because they don't have to just be narcissists, just anybody that will abuse or continue to manipulate us. We get stuck in these codependent relationships because we need to be needed. And that is an ego thing. It's fueling that same God complex, that holier than thou complex. And it's far too easy for us to look at the way the world says everyone should be kind. And if you're not kind, then you're a terrible person, and feed off of that. But in truth, look at that statement. That statement is an unkind statement, really. If you're saying if you're not like everybody else, and if you don't be nice to everybody, even if they're mean to you, if you're not nice to everybody, you're a terrible person. That's just not a true statement. But we use our ego. Let's be clear. Our ego, the ego side of the empath, can use that and make ourselves feel like, oh, I'm not the problem. I'm just here trying to fix this person because there's something seriously wrong with them. They really need my help. Well, here's the thing, and trust me, I've been there, done that, girlfriend, okay? Still probably in some codependent relationships, but we can't, especially a romantic relationship, but this isn't just romantic, it's any relationship. Any relationship. Do not get into a relationship. This is why it's dangerous. Do not get into a relationship because you think that person needs you, because you're here to serve that person. That is a one-sided relationship, and it actually isn't a one-sided relationship because they are feeding your ego and your need to be needed, because it makes you feel like you matter, because otherwise maybe you feel like you don't matter. So ask yourself that question. What if I had nobody to serve and nobody to help? Would I feel worthless? Because if you would, then you're probably already in a codependent or many codependent relationships. If you would feel worthless not having somebody to help, fix, serve, do for, you've got a disconnection with your internal self. That's just the truth, and that's why it can be very dangerous for you. It also can be very dangerous because you can end up with somebody very abusive. And here's the thing. There's no right or wrong here. Neither of you are in the wrong, neither of you are in the right. Nobody's better than anybody. But somebody who has overtly aggressive behavior can physically harm you. The person who has introverted aggressive behaviors or swallows the aggression and doesn't do anything with it, which would be the empath, or allows it to move through them in dysfunctional ways. So it can be very dangerous. Please take care of yourselves. And the first step to taking care of yourself in an abusive relationship or a codependent relationship is realizing that you are half of the codependency, and it takes two to tango, baby. All right? Number 4. Number 4 is one that I think is so subtle, yet so dangerous that we don't even notice it. And that is that us empaths tend to tolerate negativity. Now, what I mean by that is not necessarily that we can watch the news, because a lot of times we can't watch the news. And, not necessarily that, but we tolerate our negative loved ones because we just keep on loving them. And even more so than that, we tolerate negative thinking. We tolerate negative thinking. Here's a big wow for you, okay? Or it might create a big wow for you, hopefully. The internal thoughts that you are having right now on a constant basis, consistent basis about yourself, even the ones that you're not really aware of because you've had them for so long, but those thoughts that say, I need to be a good person in the world, but if I'm not, then I'm a terrible person. That's a negative thought, and that is creating your physical world at every nanosecond of your day. So the thoughts that you have about yourself are even more important than the opinions that other people may express about you. And usually, if people are continuing to express harsh opinions about you, truth is some part of you believes it because some part of you is saying it to yourself in your own mind, and you might not even notice. So empaths have a real tolerance for negativity, and that is why, not all empaths, not the Rockin empaths, but the ones that are still impaired, still slightly dysfunctional, unhealthy, haven't quite learned to really own it, those are the ones that don't even notice that, they pick up the call from that really negative relative. And just picking up that call, here's what happens when you pick up the call from the negative relative and you tell yourself, well, it's my dad, I gotta pick up the phone, or it's Uncle Ray, or whatever. It'll be really crazy if somebody actually has an Uncle Ray that's super negative. That could have been a spiritual thing that just came through me, I don't know. But you know what I mean? And when we had that split second, we had that conversation with ourselves, it was like, well, all right, I guess I have to entertain this person. Do you know what you're doing right there, that moment? A, you're tolerating negative thinking within yourself because you're already feeling bad about picking up that phone call. And B, you just abandoned yourself the moment you decided to pick up that phone call. You abandoned yourself. We need to no longer tolerate the negative thinking within ourselves. That is what we need to stop tolerating. Because once we stop tolerating that, it will be far more easy for us to no longer tolerate the negativity around us, thus changing, literally everything. Next one. And number 5, which sort of leads from number 4, is we stay in a state of victimhood. We get stuck there. We go online, we find out we're an empath, and then we don't do anything to change it. We just continue to watch videos that blame the narcissist, the sociopath, or the psychopath, blame the abusive husband or abusive mother or alcoholic addict cousin or sister or whatever. We find more reasons to look at the harsh things that are going on in the world and say, they are terrible, I cannot handle this, I can't take it, I am a victim, they don't understand how sensitive I am. This is where this needs to stop. And this is where why I created the Rockin Empath Revolution, is because there was so much of a state of victimhood. Here's the thing about victimhood. I'm an empath, I get it. I suffered with 15 years of depression, suicide, wanting to commit suicide, most days of my life, begging for God for me not to wake up the next morning. Most nights I prayed for that. So I get it. I understand what it means to live in an abusive, dysfunctional environment. I get it. If there's anybody that gets you more than me, it's me. That didn't make any sense, but you know what I'm trying to say. You can stay in a state of victimhood. That is your decision. But know that it is your decision. An unconscious one, probably. Yes, of course. You have to be unconscious to feel like a victim. But it is a decision nonetheless. Now, you can be free or you can be a victim. The choice is yours. There are, through just your willingness to no longer be a victim, there are so many empowering messages for empaths out there, one of which would be me and everything that I teach. If you really want to step out of victimhood and into empowerment as a sensitive empath, watch my videos. Join my Rockin' Empath group. Join my course if you really want to dive deep. Listen to the people. Ask me. Ask me. Because there are so many people out there that are going to continue to fuel the victimhood, and that's perfectly fine. Do what you want to do. It's your life. You can stay a victim all you want. You can blame the world. That's cool. But when you take responsibility for the way you see the world, you get to change the way you see it, thus changing the world you see. That's all I got to say about that. Number 6. Oh, number 6 is a good one, guys. Here's one thing that as empath, and I could almost guarantee you that even people who have stepped into empowerment as empaths still have a tendency to do this. As empaths, we tend to, because we're so sensitive to the world around us, we focus so much more on others than we do on ourselves. Again, abandoning ourselves just for others. But then also one of the things that we do, how we really abandon ourselves, is we actually create an entire identity based on the needs of others, or rather the perceived needs of others. Again, assuming we think we know what they need, we create an entire identity because ultimately we want to feel loved. We got the people pleasing, disease to please kind of thing going on. We want to feel loved. We want to feel like we matter. And so we can tend to create an entire identity that is going to fit the immediate needs that we perceive a person, maybe especially a romantic partner. We tend to do this, bosses, friends, anything. We come up and we say, I'll be whatever you need me to be. And then ultimately we end up resenting those people. Why? Because we abandon ourselves. I get it. One of the most difficult things in the world as an empath is to be yourself and to stand true in the roots of who you are in the world, shining your bright, shiny you-ness. I get it. That's difficult. But if you turned your focus away from the rest of the world and onto yourself, you wouldn't even fucking notice how it affects other people. And when you know the goodness of who you really are, you know that there's nothing that you could do to intentionally hurt somebody. And the only pain that other people feel, that's their own shit. You know that when you do something good in the world, that you have the best of intentions and it still hurts somebody, that shit ain't got nothing to do with you. That is their perception of of your behavior, of what you just did, of the action you just took. As long as vibrationally you're in alignment with yourself, that's all you can do. So I get it, but it is so dangerous to abandon yourself and to become someone else for the sake of what you perceive others want from you. Because the truth is, I remember telling myself this, who am I to even know or assume that I know what these people want? Who the fuck am I? And then create this whole identity based on that. Honestly, that's exactly what the narcissist does. So why are we any different? It's all based on insecurities. It's all from the ego. And we can kind of give each other a break. Okay, speaking of break, let's take a moment to just love the shit out of ourselves right now, because you guys could be feeling a lot of shame and that's not what I intended. This is a time to allow this to come up and to heal. Send it up to God, source, the universe, the angels, whatever you believe in, and pour love into yourself. The same way you would love another, love yourself, okay? And that brings me right into the next one. And that is number 7. We can tend to be guilt-stricken merely by our conditioning. We've been born into this world where there's good versus evil, and we don't ever want to be perceived as bad people. And, you know, a lot of us were conditioned to make other people feel better rather than making ourselves feel better. And so we're guilt stricken. This is how people that have tendencies to be abusive or manipulative tend to do that to us. They play on our guilt. Does that make them bad or good? It really just makes them the mirror for our own internal guilt. That's really all it makes them. And what can you do about it? You can love yourself. You can ask God for healing. You can witness that guilt. You can witness when you're acting from a state of guilt. When you pick up that phone call because negative Nancy Uncle Ray is calling and you're like dreading picking up the phone call, but you do it anyway out of what? Guilt. We are guilt stricken. I gotta tell you, in so many religions and of course spirituality, the one thing that I have heard across the board is that God does not ever want you to feel guilty. There's no fucking point. Again, guilt is negative self-talk, something that we tolerate far too much. So, where have you been guilt-stricken? And where have you been thinking you're acting out of love when really you're acting out of guilt? We mistake that a lot. And the fact that we're so in tune to energy and we know that the world really speaks vibrationally, we know that no matter what we do with our actions, even though it looks like a really nice thing to do, sure, Uncle Ray, I'll pick you up from the bar, drive you to get your meds. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. Even though we think that that's us doing a nice thing, we're doing it out of guilt. And so vibrationally, we're just pouring guilt all over that and creating more of it. Love yourself. Love yourself, guys. All right, number 8, we're getting a little bit more into the metaphysical stuff, but one of the things, and you guys that have been following me for a while know that I am an avid student of Abraham Hicks, but also of the Law of Attraction and many other things, A Course in Miracles, and all of which teach this concept. And that is, we don't understand that our heightened sensitivities is actually our spirit's way of navigating us through the world. We ignore our sensitivities when really it's our spirit telling us, hey, that thought that you're thinking right now, it's not what your spirit's thinking, so knock it off. And that's why it hurts. When you're looking at the harsh news and your spirit feels everything is bliss, everything is love, and the pain that's going on there, that is just in the world. It's just a physical thing. It's really just based off of illusion and ego. It is not your fucking truth. Your truth is heaven and bliss and joy. And hello, you are going away from heaven and bliss and joy. Stop watching. Turn the news off. Turn it off. What we don't realize is that those heightened sensitivities, it's not because we're terrible people or we're just weird alien-like people. That's not what it is. It's our source saying, the moment this hurts, you need to pivot back to joy. You need to pivot back to love. Hey, are you feeling some pain? It's because you're thinking something negative. And it could be you're thinking something negative through the observation of other people. You may be thinking that you're absorbing other people's energies, but that's not really what is happening. You are interpreting other people's energy and feeling it as your own energy. And through the observation of something that just feels like crap, is a negative thought, it's an unwanted thought, your spirit is saying, yeah, I'm gonna make this hurt as much as I possibly can, so you stop looking at it, because if you want to manifest your dreams, you have got to look at the shit you want. You have got to be positive. And I know there's a million opinions out there that think, no, I need to look at this terrible stuff. No, you don't. And if you want to continue to manifest more of it, sure, keep looking at it. But The reason we have these sensitivities is to fine-tune our thoughts and our vibrations. Being an empath gives you the ability to become the master of your own mind. And you've got a leg up from the rest of them because you are so hypersensitive. You want to become a master of your own mind? Yeah, who doesn't? That's why you're so sensitive. And a lot of people don't realize that. On to the next. Number 9 is one that is probably a little bit more of the super ego kind of empaths, and there are a lot out there. And so this isn't, just know I'm not like pointing out everybody here. This is probably a little bit more on the extreme side, but there are some empaths out there, and this is an opportunity for you to kind of check yourself, that have a real holier than thou complex. We think that we're special because we're intuitive and other people aren't. We find ease in pointing the finger at people that are narcissistic, that aren't compassionate. And really what that is our projected self-guilt-stricken conditioning. And so what we're doing is we're saying, you're not compassionate, you're a terrible person. How could he say this to me? When really that's coming from our own guilt-stricken beliefs about ourselves. How could you be so selfish? This is why, again, empaths don't take care of ourselves. We don't think of ourselves first because we think that that's a selfish thing to do. And that is a judgment that we place upon ourselves. That is why when the dynamic of the empath and the narcissist, or, whatever, insert another disorder in there, when the dynamic, the two people tend to really heighten the ego shadow sides of those dynamics within one another. So a narcissist is going to be like really a narcissist when they're in a relationship with an empath, and an empath is going to be a really victimized, sensitive empath, probably go into a deep depression when they're with a narcissist. And so, but with those people with, hanging around other people that aren't as sensitive as an empath or aren't as intense or abusive and manipulative as a narcissist or whatever, they could be around those people and just be normal people. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's like we mirror each other so much that we heighten the negativity in one another, or the unwanted in one another, because we're looking at the narcissist going, I could never be that selfish because I would never be loved. I would be a terrible person. I shame myself if I could ever be that selfish. And then we're looking at the living, breathing manifestation of that, which is the narcissist, right? Okay. So watch yourself, okay? Trust me, it's far too easy to demonize somebody who's been abusive towards you for especially many, many years. Of course it is. But when you start to shift your perception about things, and if you really have compassion for yourself, it gives you the ability to have compassion for people that have been really abusive and harmful towards people. We as empaths, we've manipulated as well. We manipulated ourselves into becoming something that those people needed. There's no difference between manipulating yourself and manipulating others. But we've only manifested a person that's going to manipulate us. That's just the physical manifestation of us ultimately manipulating ourselves. So it's this interesting, beautiful dynamic, really, when it comes down to it. But the holier than thou complex, just check yourself on that one. Again, love yourself. Self-compassion is going to be the answer to that. And the last and final one. And number 10, okay, this one, again, I feel like we're getting a little bit harsher. And you know what? I'm going to just put this on me because I know as empaths, we tend to just say, oh my God, I'm a terrible person. I'm all these terrible things. And that's not what this is about. This is totally about having love and compassion for yourself and just witnessing where there is a lack of love and compassion for yourself, because it's going to be showing out like this. So I'm going to tell you my own experience, and if you as an empath have had this experience, then it could be something to watch out for. So As an empath, not knowing I was an empath, just knowing that I was intuitive, that I could see past the surface, I just assumed everybody else could see past the surface of other people's emotions and deep beneath things. And growing up with abusive people in dysfunctional environments, as a protection mechanism, what I learned to do was manipulate people. I used the insecurities that I could see beneath the surface, but they couldn't, against them. I would figure out ways to hurt them in the most painful way that I possibly could in order to get back at them for the pain that I experienced. This is not healthy. This is quite dangerous, both for myself and for the other person involved. Makes me no different than the narcissist, and it was a way for me to get a leg up on the narcissist because it was just a way for me to protect myself. It was totally based on an insecurity, but it is something that we do. So it's interesting that some of us, so many of us actually, can have the holier than thou complex, thinking that we're so much better than the narcissist, when at the same point we can be very, very manipulative and very vindictive based off of what we see intuitively within them. Of course, both sides of the empath-narcissist relationship, both sides of it stems from ego, it stems from pain, it stems from a lack of love and compassion for yourself, and it is played out by this dynamic. So just know that, and it's just a perfect opportunity to really watch yourself. I was very manipulative when I was like a teenager. Yeah, they were mean to me, and two wrongs don't make a right. And it was a very dysfunctional, unhealthy way. And you know what? At the end of the day, I stayed in a relationship that I should have just left. I sacrificed myself. I was tolerant of the negativity for just to get revenge, which is so ridiculous. It's just oozes with negativity, and it's like you're only going to create more and more of that. Luckily, that was when I was very young, and I've definitely learned my lesson since then, but it really takes a lot of self-observation here to be able to learn how to be healthy and have healthy relationships, be able to stand in your truth as an empath, be strong in who you are, loving who you are, and loving others without the dysfunction of attachment. So again, all of these 10 things that I just listed is totally an opportunity for you to ask God, Spirit, the universe, to come in and heal this part of you. But the first step really is having that awareness, okay? I would really love to hear what you guys have to say or think about the things that I listed here. Again, please love yourselves, love yourselves, love yourselves, because that is what this is all about. It's totally not to shame any empaths. It's just to recognize that we're all kind of here on the same path. We all got our dragons to slay, and none of us are any better than the next. Do you know what I mean? Like we've just all got our shit to handle. And if we're going to really soar and become rockin' empaths, totally empowered in our being, we have got to take a really good look at our egos. And also know that the ego is just an illusion. It's sort of like a persona that the human brain makes up to protect us. And so know that this is no reflection on who you are as a spirit or a soul.
Hi guys, so I am currently a little bit under the weather in bed editing this video that you are currently watching, and Mercury retrograde is in full effect because the entire end of the video file is corrupt. I was able to salvage the portions of it that I thought were so important, and I thought about just re-recording the whole thing, but you know what? I feel like this was such a good video, so I had to just keep it as it was, and I really hope that you got the most out of it, but totally a Mercury retrograde thing that just happened. So this is the end of the video. I just wanted to inform you. I love you guys so much. Make sure that you share this video because it is so important and not talked about enough in the empath world. So please, please share. Take notes, watch it again. If you need to go get your note, come back next week and watch it again after that. Thank you for having patience with the Mercury retrograde. We've all learned a valuable lesson here. At least I think I did. And I love you so much. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Keep breathing, followed your heart.